What happens when two of television's most powerful women collide in a heated exchange that nobody saw coming? Today we're diving into the explosive moment that left viewers speechless and changed daytime television forever. You won't believe what unfolds, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about this jaw-dropping confrontation. The studio lights blazed down on the familiar set of The View as the show's hosts took their positions around the iconic table. Joy Behar adjusted her reading glasses, shuffling through her notes with the confidence of someone who had been doing this for decades. The energy in the studio felt different that morning, charged with an electricity that the crew couldn't quite place their fingers on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very special guest, media mogul and philanthropist Oprah Winfrey, announced the show's announcer as thunderous applause erupted from the studio audience. Oprah walked onto the set with her signature grace, waving to the crowd before taking her seat at the guest chair. She wore a crisp white blazer that seemed to glow under the studio lights, her presence commanding immediate attention from everyone in the room. "Oprah, it's so wonderful to have you here with us today," said Whoopi Goldberg, the show's moderator, with genuine warmth in her voice. "Thank you for having me, Whoopi. It's always a pleasure to be here with you ladies," Oprah replied, her famous smile lighting up the set. Joy Behar leaned forward slightly, her expression serious. "Oprah, I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me for quite some time now. Your recent interview special seemed to give a platform to some pretty controversial figures without really challenging them on their problematic statements." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Oprah's smile remained, but her eyes sharpened with focus. "I'm sorry, Joy, but I'm not sure I follow what you're getting at. Could you be more specific about which interview you're referring to? You know exactly which one I'm talking about." Joy shot back, her voice gaining an edge that made the other hosts exchange uncomfortable glances. "The one where you sat there nodding along while your guest made claims that were completely unfounded and potentially harmful to millions of people." Oprah's posture straightened, and she tilted her head slightly. "Joy, I think you might be mischaracterizing what happened in that interview. My role as an interviewer is to create a space where people feel comfortable sharing their truth, even when that truth might be difficult to hear." "Their truth?" Joy's voice rose, causing several audience members to shift in their seats. "Oprah, there's a difference between someone's truth and actual facts. When someone comes on your show and spreads misinformation, and you just sit there smiling and nodding, you're giving credibility to dangerous ideas." The other hosts sat in stunned silence as the tension between the two women escalated. Sunny Hostin looked like she wanted to jump in but couldn't find an opening, while Sarah Haynes appeared frozen in her chair. Oprah's voice remained calm, but carried a steel undertone that veteran viewers had rarely heard before. "Joy, I've been doing this for over 4 decades. I think I understand the responsibility that comes with having a platform. What you're describing isn't journalism. It's advocacy. And there's a difference. Don't you dare lecture me about journalism." Joy fired back, her cheeks flushing red. "I've been in this business long enough to know when someone is hiding behind false neutrality, to avoid taking a stand on important issues." The audience had gone completely silent, hanging on every word of this unexpected confrontation. Even the camera operators seemed mesmerized by the unfolding drama. Oprah leaned back in her chair, her expression shifting from surprise to something much more intense. "False neutrality? Joy, with all due respect, I think you've lost sight of what real journalism looks like. It's not about pushing an agenda or making your guests conform to your worldview. It's about asking the right questions and letting people reveal themselves." "Reveal themselves?" Joy's laugh was sharp and humorless. "The only thing your interview revealed was that you're more interested in ratings than truth. You used to stand for something, Oprah. What happened to the woman who wasn't afraid to challenge power?" The words hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down. Oprah's eyes narrowed, and for the first time since the exchange began, her composure showed the slightest crack. "I think you have some nerve sitting there questioning my integrity and my commitment to truth." "I have nerve?" Joy stood up from her chair, her voice escalating to a level that made the producers in the control room frantically gesture to the camera operators. "You're the one who's lost touch with reality, Oprah. You've become so concerned with being liked by everyone that you've forgotten how to stand up for anything meaningful." The studio fell into complete silence except for the hum of the cameras still rolling. Oprah slowly rose from her chair, her full height and presence filling the screen in a way that made it impossible to look away. Standing face to face across the table, the two media titans created a moment that would be replayed countless times across social media and news outlets. Oprah's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow commanded more attention than any shout could have. "Joy, I need you to think very carefully about what you're saying right now. You're accusing me of abandoning my principles on national television, in front of millions of people. Is that really the hill you want to die on today?" Joy's hands trembled slightly, but her resolve didn't waver. "Yes, Oprah. It is. Because someone needs to call you out on this. You used to be fearless. You took on book clubs that mattered. You exposed corruption. You gave voice to the voiceless. Now you're just another celebrity interviewer who's afraid to ruffle feathers." "Afraid?" Oprah's eyebrows shot up, and a dangerous smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Joy, you clearly don't know me as well as you think you do. I'm not afraid of anything, especially not criticism from someone who's made a career out of cheap shots and surface-level commentary." The gasp from the audience was audible even through the microphones. Whoopi finally found her voice and tried to intervene. "Ladies, maybe we should take a breath here, and—" "No, Whoopi," Oprah said, holding up a hand without breaking eye contact with Joy. "I think it's time we had this conversation. Joy wants to talk about principles? Let's talk about principles. Let's talk about how she sits at this table every day throwing stones at people while hiding behind the safety of a group dynamic." Joy's face went from red to pale in seconds. "Hiding? I'm not hiding from anything. I say what I think, and I stand by it. That's more than I can say for you these days. You say what you think." Oprah's laugh was cold and calculating. "Joy, you say what gets you attention. You say what keeps you relevant in a world that's moved past your brand of commentary. When was the last time you had an original thought that wasn't designed to create controversy?" The other hosts looked like they wanted to disappear into their chairs. Sarah Haynes was visibly uncomfortable, while Sunny Hostin kept looking toward the control room, as if hoping someone would call a commercial break. Joy took a step closer to the table, her voice shaking with rage. "How dare you? How dare you come onto this show and attack my credibility? You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Oprah moved around the table with deliberate slowness, each step calculated to maximum impact. "Joy, I've been watching you for years. I've seen how you operate. You pick targets you think are safe, you make personal attacks instead of engaging with ideas, and when someone calls you on it, you play the victim." "I don't play anything," Joy shot back. "I'm authentic, which is something you've forgotten how to be. Everything about you is calculated now. Oprah. Every word, every gesture, every interview question." Oprah stopped walking and turned to face Joy directly. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity before she spoke. "A brand? Joy? At least I built something. At least I created a legacy that extends beyond sitting at a table and complaining about other people's work. What exactly is your legacy going to be?" "My legacy?" Joy's voice cracked slightly. "My legacy is speaking truth to power, even when that power is standing right in front of me, pretending to be something it's not." "Speaking truth?" Oprah shook her head slowly. "Joy, you wouldn't recognize truth if it slapped you across the face. You've spent so many years spinning narratives and creating drama that you've lost touch with what real truth-telling looks like." The tension had reached a breaking point. Joy looked around at her co-hosts, searching for support, but found only uncomfortable silence. Even the audience seemed to be holding their collective breath. You know what, Oprah? Joy's voice became deadly quiet. I've had enough of this. I've had enough of pretending that we're friends. I've had enough of sitting here while you come on our show and insult everything I stand for. Oprah crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow. Then what are you going to do about it, Joy? Are you going to storm off? Are you going to make a scene? Or are you actually going to engage with the substance of what I'm saying? What I'm going to do, Joy said, reaching for her microphone and slowly removing it from her lapel, is refuse to be part of this charade anymore. If you want to turn The View into the Oprah show, you can do it without me. The microphone hit the table with a sharp thud that echoed through the stunned silence of the studio. Joy turned toward the exit, her movements sharp and deliberate. Joy, wait, Whoopi called out, finally finding her voice. Let's not do anything rash here. But Joy was already walking toward the stage exit, her heels clicking against the floor in a rhythm that sounded like a countdown. She paused at the edge of the stage and turned back one final time. Oprah, you used to inspire people to be their best selves. Now you just remind them that even heroes can fall. With that, she disappeared behind the curtain, leaving the remaining hosts and the entire studio audience in shocked silence. The silence that followed Joy's dramatic exit felt like it lasted forever, though it was probably only seconds. Oprah stood perfectly still, watching the spot where Joy had disappeared, her expression unreadable. The camera operators frantically adjusted their angles, unsure whether to focus on the empty chair where Joy had been sitting or on Oprah's reaction. Whoopi cleared her throat and attempted damage control. Well, that was unexpected. Oprah, I'm sorry about. Don't apologize for her, Whoopi, Oprah interrupted, turning back to face the remaining hosts, with a composure that was somehow more unsettling than anger would have been. Joy made her choice. She chose to walk away instead of having an honest conversation about the issues she raised. Sarah Haynes shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Maybe we should take a commercial break and see if we can get Joy to come back, and... No, Oprah said firmly, settling back into her chair as if nothing had happened. Joy doesn't want to come back, and frankly, I don't think she should. This conversation needed to happen, and I'm glad it did. Sunny Hostin leaned forward tentatively. Oprah, don't you think that exchange was a little harsh? Joy has been a part of this show for a long time. Oprah's smile returned, but it carried a sharp edge that made everyone in the studio lean back slightly. Sunny, sometimes being part of something for a long time doesn't mean you're good at it. Sometimes it just means you've gotten comfortable being mediocre. The audience was riveted, hanging on every word. This wasn't the warm, nurturing Oprah they were used to seeing. This was someone else entirely. Someone who clearly had been holding back her true feelings for far longer than anyone realized. But she raised valid points about your interview. Sunny pressed on, showing more courage than anyone expected. Don't you think there's value in her criticism? Why? Oprah's laugh was genuine this time, but somehow that made it more chilling. Her criticism? Sunny, Joy's criticism isn't based on journalism, ethics, or professional standards. It's based on jealousy and resentment. She's angry that I've maintained relevance while she's become a footnote. Whoopi tried again to steer the conversation back to safer ground. Oprah, I think we all just want to understand where this came from. This seemed to come out of nowhere. No people. And this kind of turned to scheme to a tensa. Did it though? Oprah turned her full attention to Whoopi, and even the veteran host seemed to wilt slightly under the intensity. Whoopi, you've all been talking behind my back for years. You think I don't hear the comments, the little digs, the subtle undermining of everything I've worked to build? Today was just the first time someone was brave enough, or foolish enough, to say it to my face. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. We never meant any disrespect, Oprah. We all admire what you've accomplished. Admire? Oprah's eyebrows shot up again. You tolerate me when it's convenient, and tear me down when you think no one is watching. The difference is, I actually accomplished something with my platform. Instead of just using it to complain about other people's work. The control room was in chaos. Producers were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let this train wreck continue. The ratings were probably through the roof, but this was clearly going beyond anything they had ever dealt with before. You know what the real problem is? Oprah continued, her voice gaining momentum like a freight train. You've all gotten so comfortable in your little bubble here that you've forgotten what real television looks like. You've forgotten what it means to actually challenge people instead of just performing outrage for the cameras. Whoopi made one last attempt to regain control. Oprah, I think maybe we should. No, Whoopi, let me finish, Oprah said, holding up her hand. Joy wanted to question my principles? Let me tell you about principles. Principles aren't about always being the loudest voice in the room. Principles aren't about attacking people, because it gets you applause. Principles are about consistency, about building something that lasts, about using your influence to actually make a difference instead of just making noise. She stood up again, her presence somehow filling even more space than before. Joy Behar just proved everything I've always believed about this show. When faced with real criticism, when challenged to defend her positions with something more substantial than clever one-liners and righteous indignation, she ran. She literally ran away from the conversation she started. The audience was completely silent now, every person in the studio hanging on Oprah's every word. This was television history being made in real time. And you know what the saddest part is? Oprah's voice dropped to almost a whisper, forcing everyone to lean in closer. Joy could have been great. She had the platform. She had the audience. She had the opportunity to really make a difference. But instead of rising to the occasion, she chose to play it safe. She chose to be bitter instead of being better. Sunny tried one more time to defend her absent colleague. Oprah, Joy has advocated for a lot of important causes over the years. Has she, though? Oprah turned sharply toward Sunny. Or has she just talked about them? There's a difference between advocacy and performance, Sunny. There's a difference between actually doing the work and just talking about the work. The silence stretched on until finally, Whoopi found her voice. Well, I think this has certainly been one of our most memorable shows. Oprah smiled, and for the first time since the confrontation began, it seemed genuine. Whoopi. Memorable is one word for it. Educational might be another. She turned toward the camera, speaking directly to the audience at home. Sometimes, the most important conversations are the most uncomfortable ones. Sometimes real change only happens when someone is willing to tell the truth, even when that truth is difficult to hear. She gathered her purse and stood up gracefully. Thank you for having me, ladies. This has been absolutely enlightening. Without another word, she walked off the set with the same poise and dignity she had entered with, leaving the remaining hosts to sit in stunned silence. Whoopi looked directly into the camera, her expression a mixture of shock and professional duty. We'll be right back after this commercial break. But everyone knew that nothing would ever be quite the same again. So, there you have it. One of the most explosive confrontations in daytime television history. What did you think about Oprah's takedown of Joy? Was she justified in her criticism? Or did she go too far? Make sure to subscribe for more incredible television moments. And let me know in the comments which host you think came out on top in this unforgettable exchange.